In this video, I'm going to give you a market update for the Canarsie real estate market for April 2022. So if you'd like to learn more, stay tuned. We're going to be discussing 5 key metrics to help us develop an understanding of exactly what is taking shape in the Canarsie multifamily real estate market. Now, unlike most of my market update videos for Canarsie, last year in Canarsie, there were no sales in the month of April. So we're not going to be able to do a year over year, month over month comparison as I typically do in my market update videos. We will be able to discuss April of 2022, but we don't have a lot of data for April of 2021. So again, those year over year comparisons can't be done. Now, the very first metric we'll be discussing is the number of active listings that were on the market in Canarsie. Now, active listings just discusses the number of homeowners who were actively engaged in the process of selling their home for the respective month. So last year, there were 41 homeowners who were actively engaged in the process of selling their home, whereas this year, there were only 36 homeowners who wanted to sell their property in Canarsie. Now, if we also compare April of 2022 and take a look at what's been taking place since January of 2022, you'll see that April has the fewest number of listings in Canarsie for any given month this year so far. So in January, there were actually 51 homeowners who wanted to sell their home. That number held steady in February. We did see it drop a little bit in March, but now in April, it's at 36. So that is really calling attention to the fact that there are fewer and fewer homeowners in Canarsie, it seems, who are putting their properties on the market. Now, this easing could affect prices, but it doesn't seem to have done so just yet. Next metric we'll be discussing is the close price to list price ratio. And now what this metric allows us to understand in terms of the Canarsie real estate market is how much value a homeowner is able to get and command out of the list price that they set for their home. So if you are a homeowner and you list your property on the market for $800,000 and you sell it for $800,000, then your close price to list price ratio is in effect 100%, because that means you sold it for the entire full value that you listed it for. All right, so in the month of April, Canarsie had a close price to list price ratio of 100.5%. This is the highest that we have seen all year, and it's actually been steadily rising since January. So January, the close price to list price ratio was around 94%, and then in the month of March, we saw that the close price list price ratio had risen up to 98%. So now that it's above 100%, that's really a good thing for sellers. Not so good if you're a buyer, because it means your competition is more than willing to go above and beyond the list price that a property is on the market for. Next metric we'll be discussing is the median sales price of a multifamily home in Canarsie. So in the month of April, the median sales price that we saw for multifamily homes in Canarsie was $845,000. So this is actually the lowest median sales price that we've seen in Canarsie for the year of 2022. The highest up until now was in February, where the median sales price was $962,000. So this represents more than $100,000 drop between February and April that we're seeing take a toll on the median sales price of properties in Canarsie. The next metric we'll be discussing is the number of homes, the number of multifamily homes which sold in Canarsie in the month of April. So in April, only 6 multifamily properties sold in Canarsie. Now, this was out of the 36 active listings that were available for sale in that same month. This represents an absorption rate of about 17%. Now, if you remember in previous videos where I defined the real estate absorption rate, the idea of the real estate absorption rate is to help us determine whether we're in the middle of a local buyer's market or a local seller's market. So if this number is above 20%, then it said that we're in the middle of a local seller's market. But if it's below 20%, then we're in the middle of a buyer's market. So given that the real estate absorption rate is only 17%, that means that Canarsie for the month of April was actually in the middle of a buyer's market. All that's saying is that there's a greater supply than there is a demand for the homes in this local market in Canarsie. Now, it's not so evident when you look at the close price to list price ratio, because if you remember, the close price to list price ratio was 100.5%, which means that despite the fact that buyers have the bargaining power, they are still willing to provide and pay sellers the list price, and in some cases even more than the list price, in order to purchase a property in Canarsie. The next metric we'll be discussing is the median number of days on the market. This metric lets us know just how long it takes for a multifamily property to sell in Canarsie. Now, the median number of days on the market for the month of April 2022 was around 116, which is just shy of 4 months. It takes on average anywhere from 4 to 6 months for a property to sell in any standard real estate transaction. So for multifamily properties in Canarsie, for them to take about 4 months, that gives you a sense as a buyer and that gives you a sense as a seller just how long it will take for you to get to the closing table. Now, given that we've talked about the median sales price of a multifamily property in Canarsie being around $845,000, at this point in the video, I'd like to give you a sense of what that looks like and what your money can buy in Canarsie for that amount. And so let's take a look at an example property which sold for just about the median sales price in Canarsie this past month of April. So here we have a 3,500 square foot, 2-family brick home. It has 7 bedrooms, 4 bathrooms, as well as a finished basement. The property also comes with a balcony and a garage and a driveway. Now, unfortunately, the listing agent didn't provide much information as it relates to the layout of this property, but we are able to infer based on the description that's provided. Since this property has 7 bedrooms and 4 bathrooms, we can infer that it's going to likely be a 3-bedroom over a 3-bedroom over a 1-bedroom accessory unit, as well as a basement. And that provides for a bathroom on each level and potential living areas on each level. As a buyer, I think it's important to note exactly what's possible when you are thinking about purchasing a property, especially a multifamily property, because you're thinking like an investor. So in the case of this property, which sold for $900,000, if we assume the layout is a 3/3/1 with the basement, effectively meaning there's 7 bedrooms and 4 bathrooms, or a bathroom on each level. Ideally, if you were the homeowner and you assume to take on this purchase, using an FHA loan, you only have to put 3.5% down. Now, if you allocate some funds for closing costs, that would mean that you could purchase this property outright for about $75,000. Now, if you're wondering, well, how would I go about maintaining this property? How would I go about paying for this property on a month-to-month basis? A multifamily property such as this actually pays for itself. So if you're familiar with the rents in New York City, you know that the standard rent of a 3-bedroom apartment for Section 8, or any voucher, if you will, goes for around $2,800. So since this apartment has 2 3-bedroom apartments, you can rent those out. It also has a 1-bedroom apartment. The standard rent for a 1-bedroom apartment is about $1,600, and it can even go up to $1,900 if you utilize a voucher. So $2,800 plus $2,800 plus $1,600 means that your monthly income for this property would be about $7,200. If you do only put 3.5% down in your mortgage, you will have what's called private mortgage insurance, or PMI. But if we combine all of these expenses to determine what will your monthly expense be, your monthly expense on this home would probably be around $6,500. But given that you are renting out 3 units and potentially living in the basement, which is described as being finished and full, you could net $700 just by owning this home. So the home would pay for itself. You wouldn't have to worry about a mortgage. You would essentially be getting paid to live in your own home. This is a concept that's known as house hacking. Now, if you're someone who's interested in the Canarsie market, you're interested in purchasing a multifamily property, and you'd like to house hack, please feel free to contact me. I'd love to work with you, and I'd love to help you purchase your first multifamily property. All right, that's it for this video. If you enjoyed watching the video and you learned something new, consider subscribing, and I'll see you in the next one.